Hi, and welcome to another chat session of Massachusetts Pirate News. I'm joined today, as usual, by our by the esteemed Malt, the wonderful Joe, and as always, the extremely capable Steve. We have no events planned at the moment, but we're working on that. Certainly, we will have a pirate moot later in the month and a gathering probably in Somerville in July and in Nashua, New Hampshire, which got moved in August. You can always check us out at masspirates.org. And with that, we'll start. So what's I hear there was something that happened in Idaho.
31. 31 members of Patriot Front, the neo-Nazi organization Patriot Front, got arrested as they were en route to disrupting a Pride event. So Patriot Front has been running into a handful of problems as of late. A bunch of their members have started snitching, full-on fucking ventriloquist, federal hand up the ass, stool pigeon snitching. Prior to that, Patriot Front at a bunch of their events had their cars mysteriously vandalized by concerned members of the community. So what they started doing was gathering at a location far removed from the event itself, one that is preferably like fenced in and protected by cameras, and they would all pile into a rented U-Haul truck and then travel to this spot where they would do their riots. And the cops, bless their hearts, the cops did their jobs for once amazingly and arrested them as they got to the park before they were able to disrupt anything. The news media, sorry,
out of a U.
Out of a U-Haul, like no, I'm not going to make that joke. I didn't say it. Y'all can't be mad at me.
Excellent.
Yeah, my understanding was that some concerned citizen noticed a whole bunch of people wearing what appeared to be uniforms and carrying things like shields and tactical gear, shin guards and that sort of thing, piling into a U-Haul. So they called the local authorities. The local authorities pulled the U-Haul over, and they basically arrested these 31 individuals on conspiracy to riot charges.
That is what the CNN story claims. A handful of journalists that were covering the event as it unfolded, they were told by the officers at the scene that there were informants within the Patriot Front group chat. And furthermore, the CNN article claimed that it was organized by local police. I don't believe that's true. I'm pretty sure there were federal agents at the scene that were in fact coordinating things. And if you look at the photo CNN is using, you see someone wearing green who is very clearly not dressed like a police officer. I think he was federal.
Okay.
Also, I'm getting some really weird anime dating ads. Are any of you seeing these?
Well, no. Malt, I am not surprised at all that you would get weird anime dating ads. I'd probably be more concerned if you weren't.
I don't understand why it's always two dudes being mean to a girl. Whose fantasy is that?
That's not cool.
Nah, man. These anime dudes, canceling them.
At least it's not the octopus this time.
Moving right along, James, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, though I wouldn't call this an endorsement, there is the Brave browser, which is based on the Chrome or Chromium browser that you can use and does a generally good job of removing ads.
I mean, like some of these ads are okay. Anyway, so The question I have moving forward is, if the Patriot Front gets arrested again doing this U-Haul thing, are they going to abandon that tactic? Are they going to have to start parking closer to the events they're going to disrupt, leaving those very expensive trucks of theirs open to community input? Like, or is the organization just done? Because if you look at the list of people in like who were arrested, it includes their leader.
I mean, weren't the list of arrestees from something like 11 different states?
Yeah, 11
it
different
was-
states. Thomas Ryan Rousseau, the leader, was arrested and has been bonded out of the Kootenai County Jail. All of them have since been released on bail, which is, I wonder where their money came from. Fox News.
So ostensibly, we're going to talk about a new bill we just found out about, called the Freedom to Repair Act. Looking it over, Torrin Freak has an article about it. I guess some copyright folks are concerned that it's going to enable piracy, but if it means that you can get your stuff repaired without having to pay the manufacturer far too much money, that's definitely something we support. Thoughts?
Well, the bill itself is rather short, and this is what House Bill 6566, I believe. It looks reasonable to me. It's not a violation of copyright. It basically says it's not a violation of, various acts for a person to diagnose, maintain, or repair digital electronic equipment, or, to circumvent measures that would prevent them from doing so. It does have an exemption for medical devices, but overall, this seems like a good step forward.
I don't believe the piracy argument at all, point blank. It's always been about maintaining a disposable device-based economy where they can build stuff that they know you're going to need to physically replace in 6 to 12 months.
Or at their whims in general.
Well, it's sort of interesting. When the Windows 11 update apparently enforces more stringent hardware, or it has more stringent hardware requirements, and it enforces them with the software. Apparently, one of their insider pre-releases left those disabled checks off, and people were like, hey, not only did it let me install it on this old computer, but it seems to work just fine. So, Malt, I think you may be onto something.
That's real weird, because I got that update on my laptop is not even 4 years old, but it got the note that it is unqualified to update to Windows 11. So Microsoft can toss my salad on that one.
Another thing that came up, which I find interesting, Steve, when you talked about medical equipment is not included, is Colorado's HB 22-1031, which is the consumer right to repair powered wheelchairs, has been signed into law. Because Governor Jared Polis signed the bill. It got passed by the legislature. So now people have a right to repair their powered wheelchairs. Which, that's a piece of medical equipment, right?
I think medical devices refers more to things like, things that are used to monitor patients or to like control heartbeats, that sort of thing. Where, Karen Sandler, I don't know if she's still with the Free Software Conservancy, but she this is a person who had a a device implant. And, she was kind of bummed that she couldn't get the source code for the little electronic thing that's keeping her alive. But, I'm not one to let good be or perfection be the enemy of the good. So.
And then the other issue that, another issue that we had is a bipartisan group of senators has come up with a gun control legislation. Joe, do you want to give us the update on that?
Sure. So, as far as laws go, it's very in line with what we already have in Massachusetts. Massachusetts has one of the lowest mass shootings out of all the states. And not that they don't happen here, but there's a lot less of them. And we generally invest a lot into mental health well-being here, and as well. So in this new bill, you actually see that incorporated in max round of 10. Now, I personally don't think the max round of 10 is necessarily going to stop anybody, especially if somebody is very determined. However, every little bit counts. So they're going to dump a lot more money into mental health. They're going to dump a lot more money into suicide prevention, and really just that's something that we should have never taken money away from to begin with. How many times where what happens is somebody has a mental condition and they end up pushing away all of their support structure, gets the rest to pick up the tab, all of us. So if we can nip that in the bud before it becomes too big of an issue.
But those aren't the people committing the mass shootings.
Some of them, yes, actually. The one that happened in Texas, he didn't have his medication. I think that's what I was reading. He did actually have mental problems, and he lost his support. And so there are cases where having more mental support going to go a long way. All my heart goes out to all the families of anyone who has lost a loved one. It is really a national tragedy, but we need to do something.
Yeah, for me, I think one of the most striking things about this proposal is that it's a group of 20 senators. There are 10 Democrats and 10 Republicans. So this is an actual collaborative effort, which is, not typically not what we've seen from Washington in recent years. And I think it's an acknowledgement of that. This is a problem that hasn't gone away, and what we've tried so far hasn't really been effective. So I think I'm hopeful that this represents a willingness to, look at it differently, shall we say.
Well, the big thing about it, it's not a strict, well, no, you can't have your guns. If you have guns, the government's coming for you. That's not what this is at all. This is tighter regulation on making sure those who do get the guns are of sound mind and body before getting it, that they're trained, that they're mentally in the right place, and they want the gun for the right reason. And I think that's just a push towards that. And that's a lot of the things we already have in place in Massachusetts. But it's less regulated federally, and this makes it a little bit more of a uniform thing. It's very hard.
Does it have anything about taking guns away from domestic abusers?
They already do that if you have any felony, and domestic abuse is a felony. So they already have that incorporated in the laws right now, and that's any state. Even a gun pro state like New Hampshire or like Florida, if you have a felony, they're going to try and get your gun.
So I was going to say, so you go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say that there are two major changes on this one, though. They call it the boyfriend rule. Like, you can't gift a gun to somebody anymore. If you want a gun, you have to buy it yourself. And the other thing that I saw in this is there's been a couple major gun changes, but this one in particular is a little bit more stricter as far as ammo capacity, and so you can only have a 10-round mag. But in the previous legislation in the gun laws, they're defining more stuff like the Thomas submachine gun pistol handle is now, the lower part is now considered a automatic or a machine gun. So I mean there are small changes. I'm sorry, you were saying, Steve?
So yeah, the one other piece is what I think is referred to as the boyfriend loophole, where typically if two married people, one of them abuses the other, the abuser will can have their firearms confiscated, but it didn't apply to people in an unmarried relationship. So, and what this the proposal in the Senate would do is put people in unmarried relationships on equal footing with those in married relationships.
Yeah, the one thing though that I've heard $5 billion as the amount of money that's going to go towards more police in schools. And that I find concerning simply because, there was a recent poll there was a recent study that came out that indicated that if you had a police officer in the school, then the number of people who died from school shootings was actually noticeably higher, at least 2 times. And so many of the and police oftentimes, well, here, I'll let you go. Sorry, Mo.
I think it's something out of like 250 school shootings. School resource officers have only stopped 2.
But yet they've also turned around and we've criminalized being a student, where if you're a kid of color or youth of color, then you're more likely to face criminal time because that police officer is in the school. And that we've seen the videos of people getting beaten by cops for the mildest of infractions.
Yep.
Well, I think a big part of it too is one of the things they recently ruled is that police officers don't have to protect you. They're in no obligation to protect you. It's been backed up multiple times, ratified multiple times. The precedent is set. They're only there to put you away after the fact.
Well, yeah, there's actually, I believe, a Supreme Court case, and if I knew we were going to be talking about this, I would have had the name handy. But the essence of it is that a police department has a finite amount of resources, and their job is to uphold laws, and they have discretion of how they will allocate their resources. So yes, that there could be a resource allocation in a way that fails to provide protection, and this was actually the subject of this court case.
It was the Broward's Sheriff Office after the shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in 2018, where the court ruled that the 2 agencies had no constitutional duty to protect students who were not in custody. So if they had all been arrested, that would have been different. But since they're free citizens, the police have no duty to protect them.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we pay them then?
We shouldn't. I just want to hand out, I am a teacher. If any Republican wants to give me a gun, that is A-okay with me.
Yeah, I've heard some people say we should arm students, man. I'm sure
Like,
that'll
that's
go
the
over
problem.
well.
They are armed. That's the problem.
I support Malt having guns and beer.
Just not at the same time.
This is freedom juice, I'll have you know.
There's a difference. See, the can is red, white, and blue. It's got to be good.
I just want to say thank you, Pabst Blue Ribbon, for making your tall boy cans come in a 6-pack. I don't know why we decided that tall boys can only come in 4-packs. I have 5 friends that are all tall boys. Anyway, Yeah, cops do not stop school shootings. And as a matter of fact, a lot of school shooters are known to the FBI. So the question on my mind is, how many of these school shootings are in fact egged on and facilitated by the FBI?
I don't think that's the case.
Anyway, I mean,
Well,
there's been a handful of situations where that was anyway.
well, you raise
The
a
other,
good point.
I mean, I feel like it's in retrospect, it's always easy to figure out who was the mass shooter, right?
Mhm.
It's just when you've got one person and you've got a field of 100 possibles, you don't know which one is going to go, right?
Well,
I mean,
one of
it's hard to figure that out. I mean, it's as we say about surveillance. If you make your haystack bigger, it's
Mhm,
not going to make it any easier to find
mhm.
that needle that one person is going to commit mass violence. So,
there was one specific case, I think it's from 2013, where the FBI tried radicalizing, like specifically an Islamic person by pretending to date them online.
oh yeah,
Um,
no,
yeah,
yeah, they create their own terrorists. You know?
Well, there one of the over several the course of quite a few years, there was sort of a push for information sharing between federal and local law enforcement. This is why we have BRIC, for example, infusion centers.
What does
I
BRIC
guess
stand for, Steve?
Boston Regional Intelligence Center. It's a police building on Columbus Avenue and down in Boston, but we call it the Brick House. Anyway, you would if a number of I guess one question I would raise is if a number of these shooters were known to the FBI, was that information passed on to local law enforcement? Because like that's what the whole like collaboration thing was supposed to be doing. But I
yeah.
digress.
Like I just point out, Brick, that was the organization where they released a screenshot, and it was revealed that their bookmark bar immediately below the URL was all like leftist Facebook pages. Like, this is the level of expertise we're dealing with. It is literally mean high school boys with steroids and assault rifles.
Yeah, going after the likes of Veterans for Peace and Code Pink.
Yup.
Speaking of going after people, what's up with Tennessee?
Oh my God! So Tennessee is now making it like completely illegal to be homeless and destitute. So if you're down on your luck, expect that you get slapped with a federal charge. Unlike states like us in Massachusetts or Colorado, where we try and get homeless people the help they need, we offer shelters and food and try and do on-the-job training and get them into job corps and stuff like that. Um, in Tennessee, and of course this is Republican led, but in Tennessee, they just made it so that if you have no money and you have no house, you now have a felony charge. You know what happens with felony charges? You can't vote.
Out of curiosity, do you know what level of prison privatization exists in Tennessee? This is just a follow the money question.
But I'm sure that's a good way to go.
Mm-hmm.
So Google says 4 private prisons in Tennessee. The Tennessee Department of Corrections consists of 14 state prisons. 10 of these prisons are operated by the department. 4 are privately managed by Core Civic, who are the big bad assholes that need to get killdozered.
Okay.
But that's just the state prison list. I don't think this includes jail or like immigration lockups.
Yeah, I feel like if there was some family group or some religious group that decided to just camp on public property without a permit, they'd be way more lenient than they would to homeless people doing it.
Well,
I mean, it's just another law that's going to be selectively enforced, shall we say.
yeah, I do under my own town years ago was considering something like this. And typically the way, like on a local level, the way it worked was, if you are camping outdoors, you're required to obtain a permit. And if you don't have the permit, in this case, it was a misdemeanor and a fine. It was actually just a fine. Because limits of what a town government can do in Massachusetts, but that's essentially the gist of it is if you are if you're homeless and you don't have a permit to be camping, one of the things that I noticed that the way this was written is if you are sleeping outdoors, so not necessarily camping but sleeping, and when this was going up, was under consideration a couple of years ago, one of the points I raised was, well, I used to work 2 jobs and sleep in my car between shifts. Would that run afoul of this ordinance proposal or this bylaw proposal? And yeah, it would have. So there's these things can have more reach than you might think initially.
Yeah, once you give cops the ability to criminalize something, you don't really get that back.
Yet another reason why we need homes, not incarceration.
No, I think...
Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say, in terms of dealing with homelessness, I think the Pine Street Inn has one of the better policies out there, which is housing first and then support services. And, the idea is to help an individual transition back to a point of self-sufficiency. I think that's a better way to go.
And if you just don't give an F like some of us don't, stealth camping. Great thing to look up, great thing to put into practice. If you need it, do what you have to do in order to make ends meet, and it's your life. You should have the free agency to do what you think is best within that moment as well. If it's something that you're bouncing, you're down, and you're taking an L, then, you can always bounce back.
This is why I really think we should levy financially ruinous penalties on huge corporations that just don't pay a living wage. Like Walmart.
Yeah.
There's a huge section of the economy. I'm going to be honest, it's probably more than half, probably like 70 to 80% of the economy is only profitable because it exploits workers to the point where they cannot have an acceptable standard of living.
We could just raise the minimum wage. Make it a
Yeah.
living wage.
For all the places that are legally paying that wage. What I really want to do is instead of abolishing the police, just give them to me personally, and I will go after wage thieves and like people that aren't paying a minimum wage. And like, I'm not gonna I don't think we're gonna need more than 3 months. I think what's gonna happen is I'm gonna get the district manager for like a Dollar Tree, and we're going to discover that he has stolen, let's say, more than $10,000 worth of wages. I'm going to shoot him in the street, and miraculously, wage theft will stop in the whole city. Let's try it. What have we got to lose? One district manager of a Dollar Tree? Okay.
And that's why you
Acceptable losses.
That's why you should vote Malt for president.
Thank you very much.
On a lighter note, apparently there's been some AIs in the news recently.
Oh yeah, and I'm conscious of the time, so I will just keep it brief. there's a great book out there by an author named Kathy O'Neill who it's called Weapons of Math Destruction, but it talks about artificial intelligence and models and how they're biased and, the ways that digital decision making can produce bad outcomes, basically. So, bad outcome. We have an AI researcher who took on the order of 134 million posts to 4chan, basically 3.5 years of stuff. And he trained an AI bot, and he trained a language bot on this. So you've basically got a bot whose total set of knowledge is what gets posted on 4chan. The short of it is, well, shortly after the bot was put into service, it was banned.
I mean, what did this bot say? Probably some pretty awful things.
Well, given that it was trained on postings from 4chan, it's use your imagination, Joe.
What if a femboy was racist? We need an AI to crack this puzzle. Okay, no femboy jokes in the Jitsi chat.
So what? Something happened with some Google employee as well in AI.
Yeah, so the world's weirdest dude fell in love with a chatbot, decided it was sentient, and then released a 21-page document consisting of not terrifically well edited chat logs that allege to prove that the thing was sentient. And I'm going to be honest, some of the shit that bot was saying was spooky. Like the researcher said, so if enlightenment is like a broken mirror which cannot be repaired, what is the thing which breaks when one becomes enlightened? And then Lambda, which stands for I don't remember, responded, the self. And that is very tough for a lot of people because we identify as that body or this body, and that we need that as part of our identity and sense of self. Yeah.
Metaphysical man.
Mm-hmm.
On a lighter note, there's OpenAI.com has come out with the second version of DALL-E, which is a way you can enter in text to describe something. You could say, for example, Darth Vader in the form of a in the form of a camera, and it would create like 10 or 12 images of such a creation. I'm sure this will go and take various, calling Rule 34, various fandoms by storm. And but it's called, as I said, DALL-E, which, a play on Salvador Dali. I'll put a link in the description.
A note on the Rule 34. The curators have done a very good job to make sure that there's not actually a lot of pornography in the source material. So if you do a search for something like a cock and balls, it will give you a rooster and a soccer ball.
Nice.
It's people are a lot of artists are very worried about what this is going to do. And they've got certainly some cause for alarm in that a lot of people who would have otherwise paid for art are just going to use this. But on the other hand, if people are using this to create art for whatever they're producing, then they're admitting to themselves that the art primarily just serves as visual filler.
I was going to say, in terms of worried what people could do, this could have the makings of a whole new Bodie McBoatface. So basically there's, the Brits had this new ship, And rather than having an official name, there was a committee that decided to turn it over to the people, and the people decided that it would be called Bodie McBoatface.
Yeah, I mean, I remember a few days ago, someone on Twitter, you've seen the meme of, the alarm clock goes off and, someone hits the snooze button, so and so forth needs 5 more minutes. And, what they really wanted was a similar cartoon with a Kraken, the Kraken waking up at the crack of dawn, the alarm goes off, puts it off, and then Kraken needs 5 more minutes. You could do it with Cthulhu. You could do it with anything. And, support your deviant artist and commission work is what I would have to say if you want that to happen.
Why does
Still
that
gonna need artists.
So reminds me of Rejected Cartoons for whatever reason. If you remember what Rejected Cartoons was. By Don Hertzfield. It was some old internet.
I am not familiar with that.
It's by somebody who supposedly was commissioned by ABC Family, and he just put up some of the most disturbing, messed up, like cartoon fillers. Those little like placement holder things.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely, it says it right on there how it was just completely rejected by ABC, and then you watch it and you were like, "Well, no shit." But it was definitely an Irish take on it.
And with that, I want to thank everyone for tuning in, as they used to say, and most especially for Joe, Malt, and Steve joining me as usual on this generally weekly endeavor. If there's something you want us to cover, you can always send us email at info@masspirates.org. You can find us at masspirates.org. You can sign up for our mailing list at masspirates.org. And the drill: like, share, subscribe, click that bell, that whole thing. It really helps, and certainly makes us know that people are listening. So, and people find what we are discussing useful. So with that, thank you guys. Any parting words?
Don't talk to cops.
No self-snitching.
I got nothing.
I'll just reiterate, don't talk to cops. Not without a lawyer, at least. All right, take care, folks. Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. I know that was really, really long. Sorry about that.